Hello everyone, today I'll be discussing a quick revision on all the concepts of OOPS, Object Oriented Programming, SIT 232. So, before moving on to the main topic, let's discuss some basic keywords that are generally used in our codes. The first keyword is namespace. Now, what is a namespace? A namespace is a way to organize and group related classes. In a namespace, there can be one or more classes which are related. We can also create a namespace for related interfaces or other types. It makes the code more manageable. It does not have major impact on the code, but we can understand the code in more manageable way. How we declare it? Its syntax is we write the word namespace and then the name of the namespace. We can give any name to the namespace. And in our namespace there can be many classes which are related to each other. The classes can be of any number, 2 or more. Then we often see the word static while declaring many procedures or functions. Now what is static? Static keyword means that this function belongs to the class itself rather than an instance of the class. What does it mean? It means that if in a class we declare an object and function like public static void and then the name of the function, so while calling that function in the main function, we do not have to make an instance of the class and then call the function. We can directly call the function without making an instance. For example, that is why we say it belongs to the class itself rather than an instance. For example, if we move on to this example, here we have made a class name example. In the example class, we have made a function, we have made a procedure named static void show message. And the function, what does this function do? This function writes this on the terminal. So in the main class where we will call the show message function in the static void main. Now if this function was not static, how would we call it? We would call it as, first we would make a instance of the example class like example e1 equal new example and then constructor, and then we would call it like e1 dot show message. Now because this is static, it does not belong to the instance, it belongs to the class. So we just call it with class like example dot show message. No need to create an object of example class. So this is what static means, and this is beneficial because we do not have to make the instance of the class. We can call it simply with the class itself. Now moving on to the main topic, OOPS. What is OOPS? OOPS is Object Oriented Programming. It is a programming based on the concept of objects which are real world entity. Now what are objects? Objects are real world entity. Like objects will have attributes, means object contains data as well as behaviors which we call as methods in programming language. For example, teacher is a real world entity, but teacher have attributes like teacher will have their own name, the department they are working in, their salary, the year of experience they have. So these all are the attributes of the teacher. Teacher is what? Teacher is real world entity. Teacher is an object of some class, and teacher will also have behavior like teacher does teaching. So teaching is the behavior of teacher. In programming language we will say this is the method. Teaching is the method of that object. Okay. So now what are classes? Classes are blueprint of these objects. Like imagine we have a class as faculty, and the class contains the attributes and methods like faculty name, faculty department, faculty salary, faculty experience. These are the attributes of the class, and behavior like teaching. So this is the method of the class. So now one class can have many objects. Like in the faculty class there will be many teachers who who have different names, different department, different salary and different experience. So in this way all the objects will have same attributes and same behaviors. The value of attributes will be different, but they will have same attributes. So in this case we can say that classes are the blueprint of these objects. So in OOPS there are four major concepts, four major principles. The first one is encapsulation, second one is abstraction, third is inheritance, and the fourth is polymorphism. So why OOPS is useful? OOPS enhances modularity, reusability and maintainability of the code. Like in the OOPS program we see there is the code is so managed that is easy to understand, that's why it is maintainable. Now moving on to this slide, classes versus object. A class is a blueprint for creating object, define property and behaviors of objects. And what is an object? An object is an instance of a class, has its own state and can perform actions. This is already explained. For example, public class car. So class is an car is an class. Class will define properties and behaviors of its object. So now each car object will have its own model and it will perform the action, it will perform the behavior, which is a method here, drive. So this class will have many objects. Each object will have its own state, like each object will have its own model. So how we define an object? The syntax is class, the class name, object name equal new, and then car and this round brackets. This is actually the constructor. Constructor is what? Constructor is like a special method invoked automatically at the time of object creation, used for initializing of objects. Like here we didn't have made the constructor, but constructor is for like initializing some attributes of the object. So the when we make an object, if we have declared an constructor in the class, it will be automatically invoked at the time of creation of object. Or even if we have not created an constructor in the class, it will automatically be invoked and the attributes has already initialized due to the constructors. Also, how the constructor is declared inside the class. Constructor is declared as public, which is an access modifier, and then the name of the class, like public car. So in the public car we can also give the parameter as, for example, in the faculty class, I gave you an example of faculty class which had attributes like name, department, salary, experience. If we want that the department of every object is electronics and communication, okay, so in the constructor we will write public faculty and the parameter as string department. In the instruction part of the constructor we will write this dot instruction is equal to instruction. While making an object we'll make it as faculty teacher 1 is equal to new faculty, and then in the bracket we'll write electronics and communication. So it will make an object as well as it will initialize the department attribute with electronics and communication. Now we know what are classes and what are objects. Further, moving to access modifiers. What are access modifiers? Access modifiers are used for information hiding. Like in a class we have some information which should be kept hidden. So we use some access modifiers so that we can control that who can access these data, these attributes or these methods. Like there are three types of access modifiers. First is private, second is public, and the third is protected. So the private access modifier is that methods and attributes can be accessed only inside the class. Like if we have the faculty class where we had the attributes like name, department, salary and experience, so these attributes can only be accessed inside that class. What if we make another class in which there is another main method? Then we can't access these. If these are private, then we can't access these inside that main function because that main function is in another class. So how we were accessing these attributes and methods inside that class? Because at that place they were public. So what is public access modifier? This modifier allows us that all the attributes and the methods of the class are accessible to everyone, that these methods and attributes are accessible within other classes also. And the third one is protected access modifier allows us that the attribute or the method is only accessible inside the class itself and any derived class. The derived class is the concept of inheritance. So what is the syntax of declaring an attribute with access modifier is like, first we will write the access modifier, either it is private, public or protected, then the return type, and then the method or attribute. So for example, we have written public void show name. So show name is a method. So first we declared the access modifier that it is public, return type is void, it will not return any data, and then the name of the function as show name. So what if we don't write any access modifier, like we directly declare the function as void show name, then by default it is private. So now the next concept is encapsulation. Encapsulation allows us to access private attributes and methods in another class. So like we have declared any private attribute or any private method in a class, but now we want to use it in another class. How can we do it? We can do it by the concept of encapsulation. It is achieved using the access modifiers. So there are two methods, which are first is accessor and second one is mutator. Accessor, we can get the meaning of it by its name, that we can access, we can get that value in another class with the help of accessor method. And mutator, like we can change that value with the help of mutator method in another class. For example, there is an attribute which is private, which is declared as private string name. Now we want to declare it, we want to access it in another class. How can we do that? We can do that by declaring a function named getName, which is a accessor function, accessor method in the base class, like in the main class, which have the attribute name. We can declare it as simple method like access modifier and then data type and then name, like public string get name. Now what will it do? It will return the name attribute. So same as that, we can declare the mutator method as well, like public void set name. It will be a parameterized method because we will pass the value of the name, whatever we want to change it, like string value, and then name will equal to value. Moving on to the next topic, which is inheritance. Inheritance allows one class to acquire the property and behavior of another class. Now let us first find the meaning of inheritance. Inherit means that one thing is inheriting or taking things from other thing. Like inheritance allows one class to acquire the properties and behavior of another class. Like we have declared, for example, we have declared a base class parent and the derived class. So the base class would be called as parent class and derived class would be called as child class. So where do we use inheritance? We use inheritance where we know that there are some classes which have some there are some entities or some classes which have some attributes or methods as common, and they do have some special or uncommon attributes or method. Like if we declare a base class as person, now person will have, no matter the person is student, teacher, faculty, staff member, dean, academic head, no matter, this person will have his or her own name, their email, their contact, their password, and their profession. Either they are student, either they are a mentor, a teacher, dean, or professor, or whatever. So the person is now the base class. Base class will have attributes like name, age, contact, address. So now there are other classes like teacher, students, and dean. Imagine we have three classes. Now all these three will have these three attributes, like they will have name, address, and their contact. So we can declare the derived class as public class student colon person. It means that the student class is derived from the person class. Now student will have the attributes, student will inherit the attributes of the person class. The person class had name, contact, and address, as well as the student has a special attribute called grade. Okay, so I think the syntax of declaring a derived class would be understood. The syntax is public, like access modifier, then class name colon and the base class name, and then in the curly brackets we define any special attributes or the methods the derived class may have. So it means a student is a person. Similar to like this, we can declare class as a teacher. Now teacher will have special attribute as salary or experience. So in this way inheritance is used when we need to declare some classes, but to reduce duplication we make a base class which have common attributes and method, and the derived classes will have their own special methods and attributes. Now we have understood inheritance. Coming to the topic polymorphism. So what does the term polymorphism means? It means many forms, like a method or a function which can take many forms depending on which class it is in. So there are two types of polymorphism: compile time and runtime. The compile time polymorphism is method overloading and runtime is method overriding. So what does these terms overriding and overloading means? So first, coming to overloading, we use different parameters in method overloading. Like we have two methods with same name, but how will the compiler differentiate between these two? The compiler will differentiate on the basis of parameters. So in the overloading concept we have different parameters, but the method name is same. For example, this is the example. We have made a class named math operations, and we have three functions in it. All these functions are named as add, but there is a difference that the parameter of these functions are different. In the first one, the parameter are 2 a and b with data type as int. In the second function, the parameters are also 2, but the data type is double. In the third function, the parameters are 3. The data type is same as the first one, that is int, but the parameters are 3: int a, int b, and int c. So on the basis of parameters, while calling a function, the compiler will differentiate that which function we want to call. So moving to the concept method overriding, it means we declare just the same method, like the same name, same parameter. Now how will the compiler differentiate? So we use two keywords which are virtual and override. Okay, virtual and override. Where do we use virtual and where do we use override? Now imagine we have a base class animal and two derived classes, one derived class dog. We have declared a method in the animal class, a function in the animal class which is public virtual void speak, console right line animal speaks. So in the base class we write the keyword virtual before declaring the method, and in the base class we declare the same method with different functionality, but we use the word override. So when we call this function with the object of dog class, then the overridden function will be called. But when we will call this function with the animal base class, then the virtual function would be called. So in the main, like you can see, we have made a object of base class like animal, my animal is equal to new dog. This is parent reference and child object my animal dot speak. We have called it as my animal dot speak. So it is a parent reference, but it is a child class object. My animal dot speak would call the function of derived class, which would display the message as dog barks. Now abstraction. What is abstraction? Abstraction hides complex implementation details and shows only the necessary features. It is achieved using abstract classes and interfaces. It can't be instantiated. It means you can't create an object from it directly. You may contain abstract methods. Like it contain methods without a body. Like the methods will not contain any instruction. And it may contain normal methods like which have instructions. For example, we have taken an example. We have made an abstract class animal. The syntax is we would just use the keyword abstract before declaring the class. In the abstract class animal, we have used a method which do not have a body and a normal method. We have declared both these methods like make, sound and sleep. And in the derived class we have made a make sound method which is overridden because obviously it was already declared. Now coming to interfaces. Interfaces is just like abstraction, but in this we do not declare the functions of the method, we just declare signature. Like a class that implement an interface must define all its method. Also we can say it is used when we want to inherit from two base classes. For example, if we have made an interface I vehicle, we have declared only the method without its body void start. In the derived class car, we have defined the start method. So control flow and exception handling, we use it for control structures. Exception handling prevent program crashes and handles unexpected scenarios. For example, when we ask the user to enter age, so if the user enters his or her name in place of age, so we want that the code should not display an error. We use exception handling there so that it can validate the input and ask the user to please re-enter the age, that or the code should display that this is not a valid number, that obviously age should be number. So syntax is try catch block, try catch finally block. So in the try we would write like console.readline. If the console.readline input is validated, then exception block will not be executed and it will run to finally. Finally block will always be executed. Now if there is an exception caught in the try block, like I have given the example, if the user enters a name in place of age, then the catch block will be executed, which will tell that it is an exception, please re-enter the age, and the finally block will also be executed. We can also use try parse or parse methods for input validation like this. So this is the concept of try parse. This is the syntax of try parse. We have asked the user to enter a number and we have initialized the variable named value as 0. We have mentioned a condition as int dot try parse console readline out value is equal to true. It means now the code will ask the user to enter a value which will be stored in the value variable, and if that value is an integer or can be converted into integer, now then this condition will give us true and the instruction of if loop will be executed, so it will display thank you. But if in case the user, like we know now, when the user enters something, it is always in string. Like if the user enters 11 1 and 1, it will be a string but it will be converted to int. But if the user enters any1, then it can't be converted into int, so it will, this condition would be false and the else instruction would be executed, which are that was not a number. So coming to the parse is just like the try parse but have different syntax. We ask the user enter a number and we initialize the value variable as 0. Then in the try block we pass the variable value as int.parse readline. Now parse will check that it can be converted into int or not. If it can be converted into int, the code will display thank you. If it cannot, the catch block will be executed and the code will display that was not a number. So we have completed the quick revision of OOPS. Thank you.